Never shall innocent blood be shed, yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God. You people have been chosen to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us! We do not ask for your poor, or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day, we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill, do not rape, do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti. How far are we gonna take this, Star?
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution, the depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Good evening, guys.
How you doing, Pastor Nick?
Hello.
Just fine. There's Steve's new digs in the background.
Yeah, but it's still the same old man in front of the camera.
Oh, there's still hot
Steve.
dogs in the hallway.
So, Steve, why do you keep showing up in front of the camera, man? You could be off having having fun with your last your last days because you're no boomer, right?
Oh, yeah. You know, you guys are the most fun I have. I just can't find any good women to devote time to, so I might as well do this.
Okay, well, I think we'll keep you for now at least.
Okay, good.
Boomer.
All right, Nick. What do you have for us tonight?
Oh, I'm just joking, Steve. Uh,
You can hand it out to me. I'll give you as much shit as you give me, so no worries here.
we're not piling high and deep here. Tonight we're talking about that topic again. Dalrock. Well, it's part of the Red Pill. Dalrock had a blog that started in 2010, and he left the scene. Was it 2020 or right before 2020, something like that? Steve, you and Plutarch read some Dalrock. Yeah. Give a brief introduction. Mine's kind of lame.
Oh, I was a participant on Dalrock's blog at the heyday, and it was great. He would post an article about once a week. You'd read the article, and then there would be discussions going on in the comments. Comments would reach usually a couple hundred comments during the course of the week. So you'd start out with the article, someone would comment on that. Then you'd go deeper and there'd be commentary. And then there'd be a debate in the commentary. And you had to take time. You couldn't, well, I mean, some people did put in just some stupid comments. But generally the comments were well written. It was fertile ground for exploring issues. A lot more community oriented than the current YouTube world. That's my take. Dalrock had some really thought provoking stuff too.
So, Dalrock for me was I did not twig to him till much later in his run, because at the time he came onto the scene, I was doing well enough that women that I had mostly pulled back from reading, red pill stuff at that point. And I'll tell you what, there is nothing like an airplane to attract women, which is a big part of my life in this period of Dalrock. So I'm actually looking forward tonight because, in 2010, I was not paying attention to red pill stuff at all. I was not engaged yet, but going to be soon when he wrote a bunch of this stuff to my now ex. So I wasn't really thinking about it much back then because I was like, oh, hey, I've solved the problem. So I'm actually looking forward to this as well. So
Yeah, about the time Dalrock got started, I was finished up my undergraduate education, met a woman, got engaged, got married. I had never even heard of Dalrock probably till like 2022, 23. Never heard of the red pill probably till like 2019, 2020. Yeah. And I look back at Dalrock now, I'm like, man, he's making a lot of the same points I did even when I was pastoring. I was coming to grips with female nature and reality, and then especially after I got zeroed out. Oh boy. Dalrock has a great kind of traditional Christian presence, but also being firmly red pilled on the nature. He's not a tradcon in any sense, as our tradcons are today. He's actually traditional Christian, as in the sense of scripture, the history of interpretation, not this thing that they call tradcons today, which are neither traditional nor conservative.
Well, Nick, this brings up an interesting point.
Go ahead.
Dalrock was a Christian, and it's a through line in all his articles when you read them. There was a time when Christian men were actively working in the red pill on red pill topics, and for some reason, Christians have sort of walked away from this, and I have a lot to say on that topic. Particularly, I think it was one of the gravest mistakes that Christianity has made in recent times was to walk away from it, because Dalrock he just hammers on some key points. You I don't want to spoil it too much. Nick has a bunch of Dalrock articles to go through. I read them before the show, and yes, he was a Christian, but when the church screwed up, he spared no what's the term I'm looking for? He did not spare them from criticism. He did not spare them of, you guys have to be doing better. And honestly, I think that the reason that the church walked away from it is because of the criticism, because of the exposure that what was going on at the time in the church, that he and people like them gave it was too much for him. And that was when, I mean, we've talked about over the years, if you guys have been following us a while, we're always trying to figure out, okay, who are the people who are attacking us, not us particularly, but those of us in the red pill, truth seekers, trying to figure out this marriage and women and divorce and children and all of that. And yeah, the left doesn't like us. And yeah, the left really doesn't like Rollo. But every time we look, it's not the left that's actively subverting the red pill. It's the right. It's the tradcons. And Nick, I think you have an article where Dalrock actually predicted this and talked about it. So I don't want to spoil too much of it, but that is an article that I'm going to have lots to say about. So that what I'm trying to say is that there is that the church itself is a large component of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Is that wrong, Nick? Am I
Fine to go after the church if we go after them in the spirit of truth.
Yeah.
As Dalrock does. The red pill is about truth. And we live in a current iteration of the popularization of the red pill where everybody kind of thinks it's men going their own way, MGTOWs, or some blend of that, or specifically with or more specifically, the pickup artist, just how to get a bunch of women and run them through. Enjoy your hedonistic lifestyle. Okay. Dalrock in many articles has already acknowledged, I think earlier on we did another stream on Dalrock. He already kind of lumped those together. You always had the kind of Christian red pill or married red pill, then you had the pickup artist, then you had the MGTOWs or men's rights activists. And generally those three groups, they've always kind of been around, always been part of the red pill. But again, today you're going to see more popularized, specifically the pickup artistry or the MGTOWs. And it's not to say that there's not truth there, but there's a distinct difference between those flavors of red pill and Dalrock's married red pill or Christian.
Okay, Nick. Here's what I would say the difference is. The married red pill, quote unquote, was a huge part of this sort of 2010s red pill. And we've sort of forgotten that. The pickup artists have kind of taken over the red pill, so to speak. But there's this thing that we've talked about before. Man, it was one of our original videos where a lot of people have a problem with the prescriptions, what people tell, to how people tell, okay, here's all this information about women. Here's how you do about it. The pickup artists have an answer, right? But the married red pill also had answers. But we don't talk about those anymore. Well, we do, but that's because we're willing to go back into the back catalog of Dalrock articles and pull stuff out. But the point here is that when people say they don't like the red pill, what they're usually talking about is there's some truth that the red pill exposes that causes men to behave in a certain way that they don't like.
Fair enough. And Steve also has an alternative on that. So the descriptors are the real problem, not the prescriptions.
Right. Well, and that's what I was trying to say is that we can't talk about this descriptor because that'll cause men to behave this in a certain way.
There's an underlying belief that is so prevalent in our world that we dare not even go there, especially in the church. Pearl is actually revealing this. When she's been the last couple months going out and interviewing at different churches. Should women obey their husbands? Oh, she's been to Orthodox churches, Baptist, Catholic, run-of-the-mill Catholic, trad Catholic, Latin Mass Catholic, Universalist, Unitarian, and man, the answers are kind of the same among women. Yeah, but. And the men are not really any much better. No one can give her a straight answer. And so this idea of hierarchy between men and women, it is so unapproved in the Christian church that red pill Christian men who actually believe in the hierarchy, they don't like that message. No, we can't have that truth. We must find a different truth that results in the same thing. So we are out, and oh my God, those PUAs, they are bad men because they cause women to be bad women. It's their fault. And those MGTOWs, men going their own way, they are bad men because they're not propagating society. We need children. So the men who are fucking women are bad. The men who are not fucking women are bad. And the men who are proclaiming dominance in a Christian world, they're bad because you know what? They're not egalitarian. They're not nice men. So, given that, what's the answer?
And bad.
Man bad.
Man bad.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Man bad. That's the answer.
All right. There you go, Steve. I'm going to hit this article so we can get started on Dalrock before we keep meandering so we can talk all day. All right. June 10th, 2011. So this is an early Dalrock article. He talks about the idea
What's
of
the title,
red
Nick?
pill. They Live. He gets it from a 1988 movie where you
Okay.
have the alien invaders and you have to have these special sunglasses they put on to see the real world, to see who the aliens are and who the humans are. It's a fun movie. It's a cult classic. He says, while the popular manosphere metaphor for understanding the realities of game, feminism, and the differences between the sexes is taking the red pill, I've always preferred thinking of it as putting on the They Live glasses. And there's the glasses right there. I think this is just a matter of taste. Some prefer the rather metro Keanu Reeves and Butch Carey and Moss and the highly stylized The Matrix. Well, I prefer the cheesy pro wrestler Roddy Piper and the campy, clumsy Marxist They Live. Not that there is anything, wrong with that. In Keanu's defense, he doesn't seem at all gay in Constantine and is instead surprisingly cool. So there you go. He gives a brief rundown on basically what it means to take the red pill. It's a metaphor in the manosphere back in 2011, even in 2011, for understanding the realities of game, feminism, and the differences between the sexes. So you start seeing the way the world really is and not how the gynocentric worldview, basically taught you how women are sugar, spice, and everything nice until you find out differently. And it's pretty painful when you find out differently.
So, Nick, are you saying that reality exists?
Yes.
Whether you see it or not.
Exactly.
And once you learn to wear these glasses to see reality, you'll actually see the things that you missed before.
Correct.
Okay. That analogy works.
It's like having seen the natural world the way a better view of seeing the natural world with all the lies kind of removed, or most of the lies removed, without a regenerating process, you can say.
And his metaphor for the They Live glasses is not bad. The red pill is, you're waking up from the dream world that you've been living in. And there's definitely an aspect of that with, men. The They Live glasses are interesting because in order for I forget his name, the main character in They Live, he had to keep the glasses on to see them. If you take the glasses off, you can't see them anymore. And that gets to the perpetual nature that we must always be seeking the truth. We must always be wearing the glasses of truth, so to speak. You can't just say, "Oh, I learned the truth. I'm done. I'm out," which is what Cypher in the Matrix tried to do. He tried to take, why didn't I take the blue pill? Right.
Ignorance is bliss.
Right, exactly. He's trying to get back to it, but the reality is that in order to see the truth, you have to choose to keep seeing the truth. He could have taken the glasses off anytime and gone back, right? But he still would have known that there was something off. You can take the glasses off and not see the truth anymore, but there's still something in the back of your head that goes, but I know that the world I'm seeing isn't true. Once you've been red pilled, you don't go back.
I'm not sure about that. Because Dalrock's message did not grow. We're still fighting the same battle. The church has not embraced it. It's like, man, okay, I know this. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Steve.
Oh, guess what? Who's a poster child for this? Me.
But Steve, that's my point. You have to keep the glasses on to keep seeing the truth, right? And everyone kind of decided. The church decided, Dalrock's message. It didn't get out there. Why? Because people decided that wearing the glasses was too painful, and they took them off.
And guys like me, you know what? I got remarried. My second wife was part of the red pill. She actually commented and participated on Dalrock. She fully embraced everything that was on there. And then we kind of moved away from the red pill, took off the glasses, lived our lives, and damn if she didn't behave like a woman. Now we're divorced.
Oh, Steve, you're telling me women behave like women? I am shocked.
And I thought once you educated a woman,
nah.
Oh, she sees the light. Oh, she's a good woman now. Oh, she's not going to behave like all those other women.
Case in point, Plutarch's wife.
No,
exactly.
Hey, everybody, just laugh at me, okay?
Sure, we can laugh at you.
I'm laughing at myself.
Well, okay.
I'm not saying Plutarch's wife is bad. I'm just saying she's still a woman, and Plutarch has to still keep her in check.
Oh man, and in some ways it's worse because she knows what I'm going to say, and guys, she does try to look for ways out of it. She does. She's still a woman. It doesn't go away. It is their nature. Yes, you can red pill a woman. Why you would choose to do this thing is beyond me. Having done it, I know why I did it, but oh man.
You know what? I don't think it's any worse.
No, I
think they're going to behave like a woman if they're blue pilled or if they're red pilled. It might be a little different, but which one's better? Which one's worse? I don't know. We need a lot of data to determine that. And I don't think it would be conclusive.
Yeah.
Well, moving forward, rotating polyandry and NAWALT. June 29th, 2011. I was not yet married. Okay. And I'm not married now. Kathy and Flavia have both pointed out in the comment section in the last post, which I'm not going to get into, that the description of women in Devlin's article doesn't apply to all women. NAWALT. Right? Flavia put it well when she wrote, furthermore, the nightmare stories you hear are only but a subset of women. Many women are able to lead very loving and stable marriages as long as they don't pay attention to the debased culture. I do not think that men are incapable of love because some cheat on and hit their wives. NAWALT.
And hit their wives.
Yeah.
Cheat on and hit their wives.
Right. NAWALT. Not all women are like that. It's a bit of a lightning rod in the manosphere because it is often perceived as an attempt to shut down discussion of some very real issue. However, I don't think either Kathy or Flavia are trying to deny the fundamental issue or stop the discussion. Flavia was actually the first person to recommend the Devlin article. I don't know what percentage of women fit into the description of the article. I doubt it is even 50%. I especially doubt the part about women being naturally programmed to leave after 4 years. Yes, this quote here, biochemical research points to a natural 4-year sexual cycle for the human female. This apparently allows enough time after childbirth for the average mother in a state of savagery to regain her ability to survive without male provisioning. In the absence of any system of marriage, a woman's natural tendency is to liberate herself from her mate after that point. When her hormones prompt her to reproduce again, she simply takes a new mate. To clarify, he says, it may be well that there is something biochemical in women that has been observed, but I don't see this as a particularly strong force. Given that our culture is steeped in a pro-divorce message for women, complete with cheerleading movies, websites, newspapers, and magazines. A church which looks the other way, as well as financial incentives. Divorce rates should be far higher than they are if this is a universal and strong force. On the other hand, if this is all true, then I would say marriage is simply done for as an institution, which it may well be anyway. As a cautious proponent of marriage, I am admittedly less likely to want to accept such a position. And the nasty ads that show up on my feed. The biggest problem I have with the 4-year attachment theory is that it makes no sense from an evolutionary point of view. A stepfather is a greater risk to her children than the biological father. Also, women can have children more than once every 4 years, so one would expect another child to be in the works before the first year term has expired. Lastly, there's no logical reason to expect that a woman who is older and has had children can attract a better man than she was able to than she was younger and hotter. Pick up a National Geographic if you want proof that women in primitive cultures conditions don't age well. Plus, the man she attracted in the past is most likely a better catch now than when she first landed him 4 years ago. But at the same time, something clearly is going on. Devlin's article accurately describes the way a very large percentage of Western women are behaving. Much of it is straight out of your standard movie or TV script, not even including chick flicks. Last week, I shared the Should I Divorce Him website. On that site, there is a quiz for women to take to decide if they should throw away their marriage. After answering each question, it shows you what the answers of other women were for that question. The questions about infidelity were telling and in line with what is being discussed in Devlin's article. Keep in mind that the quiz isn't a scientific survey, but it does come up as the top result to a Google search of should I divorce, for me at least. Yeah, it gives a link right here. Here is what the woman who took the quiz answered regarding infidelity. You said he would never cheat on him. Others said 19.4%. Absolutely not. He's cheated on me before. 19.9% said I get jealous sometimes. 30.7% said he would never cheat on me. 30.1% like most women, I worry, but I get past it. Question: do you trust your husband around other women? Just under 20% of women thinking about divorce thought their husband had cheated on them. Here's how they answer the question about their own infidelity. You said I would never cheat on my husband. Others said 43.4%, I would never cheat on my husband. 31.5%, I've thought about cheating on my husband. 14.7%, I have committed adultery once. 10.4%, I am currently having an affair. Question: what are your thoughts on cheating? A quarter of women taking the quiz admitted to cheating on their husband. Another 31% have considered it. Only 43% of the women considering divorce answered that it wasn't something they would do. And I would add, yet. That's an aspect not taken into consideration of the survey. I continue. Dalrock continues saying, given the known tendency for people to be hesitant to admit moral failings, even on an anonymous survey, if anything, these figures understate the magnitude of the problem. So while I don't have a solid estimate on how many women are acting as described in Devlin's article, it is at the very least an accurate description of a very large number of divorcees. And as Devlin pointed out, the false but near universal assumption in our culture that women are naturally monogamous makes the problem far worse. Women, says Langley, enter marriage assuming that they are naturally monogamous. Quote, trying to be faithful doesn't seem natural to them. They recite the wedding vow in much the same spirit as they wear, quote, something borrowed, something blue, quote, end quote. It is simply what one does at a wedding. Of course, a vow is no very serious undertaking to one who assumes she will never feel any temptation to break it. Accordingly, over time, most women begin to rationalize their extramarital erotic interests. If women simply want to be married and are not naturally inclined to be attracted to other men, any unhappiness or infidelity on the part of the woman is assumed to be due to the men they married. This seems to me a critically important and easily overlooked finding. The widely propagated notion that women are naturally monogamous is helping to nourish the contemporary blame the man for everything mentality. Hence, odd as this sounds, in order to reestablish the actual practice of monogamy, it may be necessary to discredit the notion that women are naturally inclined to. Dalrock says, my main takeaway from all this is a reinforcement of the fact that we have a very real problem. And those of us who want to save marriage as an institution have an obligation to acknowledge the reality and help others do the same. If not, we will be the generation that history records as having fiddled while marriage burned.
You know, I actually like this idea that he puts out here, or that Devlin puts out here. Hence, as odd as it sounds, in order to reestablish the actual practice of monogamy, it may be necessary to discredit the notion that women are naturally inclined to it. First of all, we know now that women are not inclined to monogamy. But we do know that, historically speaking, monogamy is the most stable form of relationship upon which to build a civilization. Polygamy always leads to an imbalance where you have a few men with a large number of women, and then you have a large number of men who have no women, and they tend to get agitated and start revolutions
The
and
next
shit.
article. Yep,
Right.
that's the next article. Yeah.
Okay. So, but what I like this idea that we need to discredit the notion that women are naturally inclined to these things. I don't think they are. And the fact that women will have multiple dudes on a rotation, you know, it used to be something that women tried to hide, but now they talk about it openly on TikTok. You know,
And I've seen it on their phones when they pass me their phone. They want me to put in their number, and I see all the text, all the
yeah,
lewd texts from the line of guys she's got lined up.
right. You
I'm
know,
like, no thanks.
right. And so
Wait a minute, Nick. If she is inviting you onto her roster, okay, and you have to start at the bottom, you can always move up the roster.
Yeah, nah. I'm not interested in that stuff. So that, it's extremely off-putting for a Christian man. It's just, I think it's absolutely disgusting.
yes, but these women won't see any problem with it whatsoever, and so they won't even understand why you're reacting the way you're reacting.
No, and they get mad when I don't want to go. Like, why?
Nick,
I'm like, you got
she
some guy.
she's giving you such a compliment. She is so great that you should just be honored to just get a little piece of her. Or even the hope of getting a little piece of her.
Things that make you go, ugh.
Any other comments on this one before we go to the next?
So this article that he's commenting on when he says Devlin, was that F. Roger Devlin?
I have no idea. I didn't get into it.
Okay, I don't know, but that was a big name back in the day.
Probably.
Kathy, I think I know who that is.
Okay.
Kathy Farley from She lived in Australia. Yeah, somewhat friends. She was a Catholic, very religious woman. Turned out to be fucking crazy. Yeah, typical bad apple Christian trad type. Before trad had its name. I could be wrong, but it happened.
Oh, nothing new under the sun there. Oh, we'll go to
No,
this one. I'll share this tab instead. Oh, polygamy ahead. It's a really old Dalrock article. November 16th, 2010. Fox Day seems to argue in the economics of polygamy that we can expect to see women push for legalization of polygamy. Part of this argument is that men have wised up to women using marriage/divorce as a wealth transference mechanism. He gives a quote here. The question ultimately boils down to whether women of the politically active sort would prefer half of Prince Charming's castle to the entirety of a woodcutter's cottage. The acquisition of male assets through divorce was never going to work for long, as it only took 40 years, a little less than 2 generations, for growing male awareness to break the traditional marital model and reduce marriage rates among the 25 to 34 age group from 80% to 45%, and the overall rate to 52%. In less than 3 generations from Ronald Reagan's signing of the California's no-fault divorce law in 1969, conventional monogamous marriage will no longer be the statistical norm. Vox doesn't cite his source for the statistics, but they fit very closely with the 2010 census data. I commented on his site explaining that he appeared to be misreading the data, but since I was late to the game and commenter 104, I don't think he noticed it. Either way, he didn't respond. As you probably already know, the problem with the data he is using is it measures the percentage of the population currently married. But divorce theft doesn't involve women being married, it involves them getting married and then divorcing. The right stat to look at would be the percent of men and women still marrying. And as I've shown, these stats tell a very different story. As I've said before, marrying a woman when she's older and less hot and having her divorce you doesn't mean you're on a marriage strike. I shared the latest census data with Vox in my comment to him. The stats you're looking at are the percent of the population which is currently married. The change is important, but it doesn't show that men are wise to divorce theft, at least initially. The vast majority of men, 63%, and women, 73%, still marry by the early 30s. Again, this is old data that Dalrock's using compared to today. These numbers are much higher if you look at just whites, with roughly 85% of white women having been married by 35. Either way, I don't see men refusing to marry, if it does in fact start to happen, as the foundation for a push for polygamy. The feminists will detest the idea, and the white knight useful idiots they depend on wouldn't be willing to carry their water in this case. And even if it somehow became legal, why would wealthy men want to sign up to have their assets even more at risk?
Oh, do I have things to say about this, including a cool chart? Because
Okay.
Nick asked for data before the show, so I'm going to put this chart up here. Okay. Oh, I have to. Thank you, StreamYard.
There you go.
There we go. Can't just swap by clicking the button. That would be too obvious. Okay. Households headed by married couples in the 2020s are lowest on record ever. So the point that Dalrock made about how to read the stats is correct. The point that I want to make is that this data that I am looking at here is based on the the read that Vox Day used. Okay. This is currently married people. And you can see it comes from the US Census Bureau. There it is right there. Same data set. This is updated for, see, this was done in this was done last year. And including the 2024 data. So this is an update on what Dalrock was talking about. He says, looking at marriage rates and if men went on strike, well, there's an interesting thing that happened. And if we look at 1949, which is the peak year of marriage rates at 78.8%, it has been trending down ever since. With the biggest collapse in marriage rates happening between 1965 and it starts to shallow out around, we'll call it 1980. So there's 15 years where it just falls off a cliff and then it starts to shallow out. And then people are going to say, oh, well, it's we're bottoming. Yeah, I guess we are bottoming a little bit. So this article was written in 2010 using the 2010 data. Dalrock would have he would have seen 49.7% as his last data point. The marriage rate is in 2024 was 47.1. So 15 years later, it's down 2.5%. And you say, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. Well, it doesn't sound that bad, but consider how long it took to go from 78 to 47. That's a loss of 31%. It took 70 years. These things move slowly. And so
Plutarch,
yes.
I got divorced in 2007 and then remarried in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Do I show up in that marriage rate again?
Yeah, you will.
Holy shit. So, a lot of these people are divorced and remarried, and it still shows up as being married. Can't
Yes.
use this data.
Well,
It doesn't reflect younger generations as well. This is some of the fallout of the boomers.
well, let's take a look at that. I think I've actually shown this chart before on a different stream. So 1960, this is peak marriage rates in here. Okay. If you remember if we go back up here, 1949, 1948, and then I scrolled past it. Silly me. Okay. 1949. Look what happens for that top. The average age of men getting married is 23, 22, all the way up till, 1975. Okay. And then the average age of marriage just takes off like a rocket ship and doesn't look back. Okay. So, let's see, the year Dalrock wrote that article would have been 2010. So the average age of marriage would have been 28.2. It's now 30.2 for this year. Or for 2024. Okay. So here's the thing that people don't really think about. The later you get married, the less likely you are to get remarried. You just have less time for it. Less time in life. You're not going to get remarried 3 times. Like boomers were famous for doing. I mean, relationships take time to establish. You got to find a girl, you got to date her, you got to go through the engagement period because she's going to make you go through it. Remember these women, yes, they'll open their legs for Chad, but she's going to make you go through the process to marry her. Okay, well, and then you have to be married long enough, and for most women, that's 5 to 8 years. Okay, so you've burned through 10, 15 years on average. How many marriages do you think are going to happen? You know, if you started down here at 22 versus 30, you can get almost a whole nother marriage in there. Right?
Sure, you can.
So men getting married later is not a good thing if feminism is your wealth distribution mechanism. Fewer opportunities to men are offering fewer opportunities to take money from them.
Okay. So the less percentage of the population is married. Men and women are getting married later.
Correct.
But that's reflecting the total population today, not
Well, so I do want to be age of first marriage, right?
okay.
So
First marriage.
this data is on that track. And that's why I brought it up. So
I think we've seen other data where the percentage of drop of men and women just getting married in general too,
I have that up.
by age group.
Scroll up a little bit, Plutarch. No, I want to see the timeline on that chart. I got married in 1990 the first time. Okay, 26 was man. I think I was 29. Of course, I was college educated, so factor that in.
Yeah, well, it matters. It delays you by 4 years on average. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, there you go. There's Steve right there.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, I was pretty much on trend. Add the education component. I mean, other guys who didn't go to college probably were married younger. Yeah, typical.
Yep. So
was there any more?
No, that's what I have for this.
Okay, well, good. I'll go back to marriage strike now. I'll share this tab instead. There we go. Oh, marriage strike. Yeah, a nasty toe commercial for some reason. October 19th, 2010, marriage strike. First time I heard about this, Steve brought about the Baskerville solution. And I think he might have talked about it early on, probably around the same time, but he's become more popularized and towards today. Gwerp, if I can say that right, has sparked a spirited discussion on her blog with her post, A Question for the Gentleman. In that post, she mentions the off-cited manosphere threat of a marriage strike. And I quote here, having read extensively that the men in this corner of the interwebs have to say about marriage that it's a trap, a form of indentured servitude or slavery, that it's a sure way to get robbed of both your money and your children in divorce court, that there are no women who are good wife material left in America. I'm left wondering what women should do if there is to be a marriage strike, or if there is already a marriage strike, which may be the case given recent census data about marriage. Dalrock says, so this has me thinking about the question of whether or not there really is or will be a marriage strike. My first answer is that it depends on how we define the term. If those using it are thinking of a classical strike where men would eschew marriage out of a sense of male solidarity in an effort to extract a better social bargain, this isn't happening and won't happen anytime in the near future. As I pointed out in Sex Cartel, it's another article, you guys should read it. In order for such an effort to be effective, there would need to be means to enforce the strike. But this still leaves open the possibility that men would avoid marriage not because they wanted to achieve some grander social aim, but because they felt it was in their individual best interest. This, of course, is another question entirely. The most frequently cited data considered proof of a marriage strike is the number of marriages per 1,000 unmarried women. The Spearhead shared exactly these statistics in a post earlier this year, ominously titled The End of Marriage. They compiled the data into a helpful graph to assist us in visualizing the extent of societal change we are experiencing. Here's that graph to 2009 or 7, or it's like 2008 and a half. Yeah, 2008, 1968 to 2008. So it's what per?
I have a
Americans.
different version of this graph to look at.
Okay.
So you keep going. We could show it at the end.
It goes to what 80%, right? Down to what lower than 40%, so 38% or something like that. The end of marriage question mark. They even project out the trend into the future in a semi tongue-in-cheek spirit. They project it in wow, not far from here to get to close to. I think that was a bit
As I said, I have a chart on this, and it didn't go this way.
it didn't go that way. Okay.
Yeah,
Game
that's
over,
linear,
ladies.
semi-linear
Yeah.
projection.
All right. Maybe not. The data chart above suffers two common problems when we were looking at data on marriage rates. I'll get through the article, then you can bring up the data if that works for you.
Sure.
Okay. The first problem is that lumps all racial and demographic groups. I pointed out in the Sing for a Husband post that since the delightful lady in question was 35 and white, per the census data, she was one of the remaining 15% of women in her demographic who were unmarried. That's right. Roughly 80%, 85% of white women in the U.S. have married by the time they reach 35. But the story would have been different if she were a black woman singing for her husband at age 35. In that case, she would have been in the same boat as roughly 45% of her peers. 15 to 45% are very different numbers, especially if you are singing for a husband. Anytime you see marriage rates lumped together, you have to ask how reflective this is of you or whoever you are talking to. Averaging 15 and 45% isn't helpful to either group. Second problem with the data in the chart above is a bit more subtle. The biggest problem with answering the question of whether marriage rates are changing is the problem of timing. If 100% of women used to marry exactly at age 20, now 100% of them marry exactly at the age of 40. Do fewer women marry now than in the past? In either case, 100% of women are married. But something rather important has also happened. More vexing still is for someone looking to understand marriage rates. In the above hypothetical, there would be a 20-year period where marriage rates appear to decline precipitously. The data would show 100% marriage until the change, then decline steadily, then jump back up to 100% again until the first crop of women delaying marriage reached age 40. All you could do is speculate on how likely they would be to marry. That is a 20-year information gap, simply to know what would happen for today's women. If you wanted to know about the next generation, you have to wait patiently. Patiently wait another 20 years. The data series above is deceptively susceptible to the exactly the kind of delay in marriage we are experiencing. Let's go back to the absurd hypothetical above for illustrative purposes to see how such a shift would show up in the data. Probably isn't correct, but let's assume that the above graph only measures marriage rates for unmarried women 20 or older. Let's also assume no divorce, no deaths, changes in birth rates, etc. For the first scenario, where all women married exactly at age 20, the number of marriage each year per 1,000 unmarried women would be 1,000. For the second scenario, where women wait until age 40, only 1/20th, 5% of the women aged 20 to 40, all unmarried, would marry on any given year. Those who turn 40. So in the second scenario, the rate of marriage per 1,000 unmarried women would be 50. In this admittedly absurd hypothetical, the rate of marriages per 1,000 unmarried women dropped from 1,000 to 50, even though the only change was a delay in the age of marriage. In both cases, 100% of women were ultimately marrying. So the marriage rate per 1,000 unmarried women metric isn't particularly helpful. We know that women are delaying marriage, and we know that marriage rates are widely based on race. This takes me back to my original analysis from my second post on gray divorce. Let's look at the most recent census data for white men and women. Again, this is back 2009. See the breakdown. White alone, non-Hispanic. The men who have ever married goes up.
Right. So what? Okay, I'll sum this up. What he's saying is that at some point, people get married.
Yeah.
By and large.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a really cool chart for you guys when we're done here, but I just wanted to sum that up. Okay.
Right.
There is no, in his data, there's no broad-based marriage strike going on in terms of men just swearing off women forever. The numbers are down, but they're down by 3%, 6%, somewhere in there, or 5%, 3 to 5%.
Over a 10-year period.
Yeah, over yeah, exactly. Over a 10-year. That's not really a marriage strike.
Percent of white men and women ever married by age 99, 2009. What I see in this data is basically, well, I'll skip down. Plutarch pretty much sum up some of that. Something is happening. The question is, what is happening? And the change is the change simply acceleration of women delaying marriage, as we've seen for over 100 years? And even if this is their intent, will they be able to catch up with the previous marriage rates in the future? Will men still want to marry all these additional ladies? We simply won't know for another 10 or so years. And well, that's happened. Plutarch will have the data. What I do know is that the women making these choices are taking a significant risk if they expect to marry later. In just 10 years' time, the percent of white women marrying by their early 20s has dropped from 30 to 23%. It's comparatively a rather large 23% reduction. Whether they know it or not, they're betting that men 5 to 10 years from now will be more willing to marry an older women than men have in the past. They might be right. We can only speculate while we wait to see. Well, what do the results say, Plutarch?
Well, maybe Plutarch can answer this question. Yes.
Okay.
Have you seen all the men lining up to marry these girl bosses?
Well, they exist. Let's look at this a little bit. I have tried to make this chart bigger. This website is crap. It's a university website, so make of that what you will. This is the chart in question here. It goes back to 1900, but you can see that they start in, here's 1970, and it falls off pretty much like the chart that Dalrock showed. There's a little bit of disagreement in the numbers. That's not unusual. It comes from CDC and Census Bureau data, so it's not quite the same. But the key part is, so this is 2010, this dot here, okay? And then note how it goes flat for 10 years. Okay. So
That would be what? No change?
yeah, more or less. This is women's marriage rates. Man, they mislabeled it. It's 19. As I said, this is not great. The Bowling Green something university put this together. So anyway, that is what's happened. Is the marriage rate has steadied. Okay. But there's an interesting thing happening under the hood, and this is the one that I really wanted to look at. Okay. So Gray is never married. In 1900, never married was sitting at eyeballing it. We'll call it 70%. Never married falls. There's that 1960s low, that bump that we see in all the data, or right, the never married rate, and then the never married rate starts increasing again to the point where it's about back to 30%. Okay. And the widowed number stays roughly the same, really, up until about 2020, and then the widow rate starts to collapse on itself.
2000.
Yeah, 2000, 2010. The data's kind of choppy here. It's it's pretty low fidelity data. But look at separated/divorced. 1950, we get to 1960. But believe it or not, it's actually 1980 that things go wild. 1980 is where things get really bad for separated and divorces, not the 1960s. I've talked with my dad about this and before, and he'll say the same thing. This is the gray divorce stuff showing up here. But the marriage rate was at about 55% and is now back down to that 47-8%. So the reality is that almost all of your change over time has been in the separated divorce. Like that's what this chart really shows. People are getting divorced at rates that far exceed what they were 70 years ago.
Any question? Is that continue to stay separated or divorced, or that are currently separated and divorced that might later remarry?
It's currently, yeah.
Okay.
So what interestingly, what this shows is that fewer and fewer people are getting remarried. Okay. And this goes back to Dalrock's point. The data that says when you're looking at divorce statistics, you must separate ever married from currently married. Okay. And we did this on another episode. It was only a few weeks ago, wasn't it? Only a few shows ago, where we actually tore into this, and it turns out that that the difference, that how you ask that question matters a lot. So, but the interesting thing about what this shows is that primarily people are not remarrying. And I think if you get a marriage strike, I think that's where the strike ends up happening. Men who've gotten married, gotten blown apart in the divorce court, say, yeah, I'm never doing that again. Right? But they show up as having been married at some point in life. And so if you look at the Dalrock data of, so that table that Dalrock posted, those are ever married numbers. Okay. But the data for currently married is quite different. So I think what that says we're seeing is that men are getting, broadly speaking, getting married, but they're getting destroyed in divorce court. And yeah, there's a large percentage of them that go back and get married again. But an ever increasing number are just saying, yeah, I'm sitting this out. And it's a marriage, so it's a marriage strike, but it's not a marriage strike that would show up very well in how we currently collect data. You would have
Dalrock mentioned that it's not men acting collectively.
Mm-hmm.
Men don't do that.
Correct.
Well, except in times of revolution. Okay, we're going to overthrow the government. Blah blah blah. That happens. But collectively in marriage, no, it's every man acting in his own best interest. So, en masse, men are doing the same thing and avoiding it. There is no organized marriage strike.
That would be my read of it, and I think the data broadly confirms that. And we've talked about this before. Men are just individually choosing not to get married.
Oh, you know what?
Especially remarried.
Let's look at this data. I know what the problem is as a Catholic.
Okay, Steve.
It's Vatican II. And it's Roe v. Wade and birth control. You know, what's that? Connecticut or Griswold versus Connecticut. It's the 1970s. I mean, Vatican II was the early 60s. But then that came about. And then we permitted abortion and birth control. And it exploded from there. Oh, wait a minute. Kind of exploded earlier than that.
Yep.
Shit. Oh, I guess that wasn't it. Oh, it was World War II. Well, it was kind of growing before World War II. I don't know. I mean, these things, I'm not minimizing these occurrences, significant events, probably did contribute. Oh, damn. Do you notice here? It really went up after Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971. That's it. That's what caused this to explode. Okay, you can pick anything you want as a cause.
Well, for reference, Steve is making a very long-winded assertion that correlation is not causation. And Steve, you're absolutely right. People will look at this data and they will pour into it their personal bugbear. If you're an anti-abortionist, you'll say, "Oh, it's got to be abortions that causing." If you're an anti-birth control, it's got to be birth control as a cause. If you're a gold bug and a gold standard person, it's got to be the inflation that's causing it. That's probably not it. We have a saying in the red pill, marriage leads to divorce. Well, why is that? Well, to get divorced, first you have to get married. So the subset of divorces, all divorces are inside, they are a subset of marriages. Okay, well, that points to, it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek to say it, but that points to something with marriage, something with the way we practice that, right? And then in the 1980s, the divorce rate really just takes off. Well, the 1980s is when most states got their no-fault divorce laws. The first no-fault divorce was 1969 in California. And by the end of the 1980s is when you see no-fault divorce really. Well, yes, Shu, that too. I can't put that comment on screen, but yes, Shu. Yeah, somebody always has something to blame. Ironically, Shu, yours is the other side of the problem because that stuff that I can't mention really didn't come on the scene till the 2000s. So, and the chart very clearly shows the blowout and divorce is happening 20 years earlier. So, but hey, everyone's going to read what they want to read into the chart. Chief, I don't have the ability to rotate it here directly in Firefox. I would have to download it and rotate it and reload it, which would take too much time. But Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, is to mentally flip it around. I like that idea. I will do that later. So this data says that there is very clearly something going on, and that the problem really isn't never married or widowed. The problem is these two. This is your problem child here. Okay.
On to the second to last article.
You know what?
This has been a
Before we go there, the answer to this is obvious. Us patriarchal men used to keep our women barefoot and chained to the cook stove.
Chained now. Okay.
Yeah, obviously. Because, once we unlock that and set them free of their chains, look at the problems we have now. Oh, yeah, they're barefoot, pregnant, and chained to the cook stove.
Okay. Yes, barefoot, pregnant, and chained to the stove. And clearly that's the problem.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
No.
Well, guys, I have bad news for you on that one. We've never done that in human history. So good luck with that. No, women were frequently, they did different things, but no, they were not barefoot, pregnant, and chained to the stove. They would do things like go to market, get food. They would tend gardens. They would, they make butter, for churn butter, do laundry. Women had a long list of things to do that, required them to be able to move about. So with a fair degree of autonomy, I might add. So just think about that for a second. The problem isn't necessarily female autonomy by itself. Nick, that's a yeah.
Men made their lives too easy, so now they have more crap to complain about, and they're bored because their jobs got easier.
Yeah, just blame it on the automatic washing machine.
All right. I'll go to the next one if we're ready. Oh, this has been a topic on some of our latest streams. And lo and behold, Dalrock thought about this back in December 18th, 2010. Again, he's a Christian man who happens to be red pilled. Are men morally obligated to marry? Ferdinand Bardamu has posted title Eche Makfrei, maybe I said it right or wrong, who knows, why Laura Wood and other conservatives and traditionalists just don't get it, where he takes strong issue with conservatives shaming men into marriage. Hey guys, does this happen today? Is this joke still going on?
Does this happen today? My Twitter feed is full of this.
You note the sarcasm in my voice. Okay. And quote, what offends me most is that her contention that the commenter is evil for warning men against marriage due to the risks involved. Quote, end quote. As a supporter of marriage, that's Dalrock, I take great offense at this as well. I don't agree with what appears to be the majority MRA, that's men's rights activist view, that all men should refuse to marry. But I resent the attempt to shame those men who choose not to. Dalrock resents the attempt to shame those men who choose not to get married. Given the likely results to innocent children, telling men they must marry despite radically changed laws, a complicit church, and a debased culture is what is evil.
Mic
How
drop.
many million mic drop, right? This is
I mean,
2010.
you don't need to go any further than this. He's going to, I will let you, but guys, if you take nothing else out of this show, that bolded line of text on your screens right there is what you should take out of it. Go ahead.
Mic drop. Telling men that they must marry despite radically changed laws, a complicit church, and a debased culture is what is evil. How many millions more kids are Laura and others willing to feed to the divorced wood chipper? Pretty much what it is, in order to keep up the facade of marriage and the church as a healthy moral institution in the West. Oh gosh, he's going after the trad cons back in 2010. I love this. Simply put, we don't live in a culture which can back up any assurances it gives to men who enter marriage in good faith. As I wrote in my previous post, old rules are new. There is no moral authority which is currently acting to ensure that women honor their side of the marriage contract. Therefore, there is no moral authority in a position to shame men for choosing not to marry. The fixation on the speck in the eye of unmarried men is wholly misplaced. They should be shaming the church for standing by for decades while women and men in attendance divorced at the same rates as atheists. Laura's own Catholic Church can't be counted on to stand up for marriage. Solomon II shares in Solomon II's confession. Solomon II's 8-year marriage was annulled by the Catholic Church at the request of his wife's powerful father following her miscarriage while Solomon was overseas on business. He gives this quote here. Well, when I landed back in the U.S., she was gone. Her parents had taken her back to Brazil to recover. I lost her father's respect, which meant my marriage was over regardless of what she felt. Quote, if a man can't take care of his wife, then a father will take care of his daughter, end quote. Said the man who has a handwritten letter from Ronald Reagan saying, thanks for letting me and Nancy spend the night, hanging on his parlor wall. He was a powerful man. So the papers were filed and a call was made to the Vatican faster than you can ever imagine. Just like that. I was single again in the eyes of God and the U.S. government, end quote. He isn't the only story of a trigger-happy Catholic Church when it comes to annulments. What could you say, Laura, to those men who honored their vows and the church one day decided their marriage wasn't really for life? Would you say man up and marry again in some grotesque game of Lucy and the football? Next time my church is bound to get it right, or maybe double or nothing. Huh, Steve? What could you say to the other men you're trying to shame into marriage? Don't worry. Don't worry. It might not happen to you, or when the Mass is given in Latin, all is well. Is there some trick to getting a real marriage out of the Catholic Church? Perhaps couples need to check that the priest who marries them doesn't have his fingers crossed during the ceremony. Rex makes a similar point in his letter to Laura, which started the discussion. It would be different, perhaps, if you're living in a non-atomized culture, a culture characterized by strong communal ties, a much higher level of homogeneity, etc. But that isn't our situation. We don't live in a culture where responsibilities can be imposed on persons outside of voluntary choice. Laura dismisses his point in a response. And she says, the sphere of direct voluntary choice is significant, but quite small. When I drive into a city, I cannot choose to drive anywhere I wish, but conform to roads already laid out. I am naturally obligated. Driving on the sidewalk or into buildings would not be to my benefit anyway. Similarly, all people are constrained somewhat by what society teaches them is good, by the roads that are laid out for them. And Dalrock says, telling men not to marry isn't like telling someone to drive on the sidewalk or into a building. It's like telling someone to avoid a certain road due to an abundance of potholes, or warning them not to move into a high crime neighborhood. The city might suggest steering around the potholes and not going out after dark. But it doesn't have the right to tell others they have a duty to take risks they are legitimately not comfortable taking. If the city feels that more people should drive on a certain road or live in a specific neighborhood, they should focus on making those options more desirable. Likewise, if you want to encourage more men to choose to marry, we need to focus not on shaming them, but in creating an equitable framework for marriage. Furthermore, even if you believe that men have a general moral obligation to marry, you can't suggest that men have an obligation to marry a woman who isn't highly likely to keep her vows. In fact, because of the likely future impact on children, men have a moral obligation not to marry a woman unless he can determine that she is highly likely to keep her vows. And I'll give a side note, but her feelings can change at any time. Now I'll continue. I've never found an example of someone shaming men into marriage which didn't omit this crucial point. Additionally, unless you have a foolproof method to guarantee a woman has this quality, you have to leave this assessment up to the individual man. Given the state of our culture, including encouragement and incentives to women to divorce, there will be a large number of men who won't be able to find a suitable wife. Yes, the numbers don't add up. That's my side note. If anything, far too many men are married now. He says, I have another moral obligation to telling men or women that they have an obligation to marry. Doing so weakens the moral grounds for insisting that they keep their solemn vows. A marriage entered into under coercion has a significantly weaker moral underpinning than one entered into freely. Coercing men or women into marriage weakens marriage. I'll say that again. Plutarch liked this statement. Coercing men or women into marriage weakens marriage. No one should feel obligated to make a promise, but once a promise is freely made, they should be expected to honor it. This is the exact opposite of the situation we have today. Men are told they need to man up and marry, and women are told they don't really need to honor their marriage commitment. He ends saying, I encourage those men interested in marriage to marry, but only if they understand and accept the risks and can find a woman with the moral force to keep her side of the agreement. All right, gentlemen.
I have
This
much to say, but Plutarch can start.
well, no, you go ahead, Steve. I've got a lot. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Scroll up to the very beginning. First paragraph. Ferdinand Bardamu. He ran the website In Malafide. It was early on. Laura Wood had her own little blog. She was really one of the first tradwives. I enjoyed reading her blog. She was on target, very traditional. My ex-wife became friends with her. They emailed after, for a while, a few years later. So what happened to Laura? Well, I thought she was an ideal woman. As it turns out, she kind of got the hots for some other guy on the internet. He had a blog for a while. She was a bit into the BDSM stuff. She went away with him for a weekend. Don't know what they did, but after that, he ghosted her. She was destroyed, emotionally destroyed. And then he pawned her off on a buddy of his. So she divorced and got knocked up by this other guy. Had the kid, divorced her husband, and married that guy. So that's a story of Laura Wood. One of the first, what I would call, tradwives. I'm probably one of, maybe the only guy on the planet who can tell you this story. But, gee, are they any different today?
No.
No. All right, Steve. Am I up?
You're up. Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
I just couldn't resist. Oh, one of these.
Got the inside scoop.
Great women that we were holding up as, follow her. She knows what she's talking about. Bullshit.
Guys, the women, they can't help you. They can't help you. This is why we routinely tell Elena to not try to help you, because she can't either. Okay? And she does other things because of that. So, oh boy, do I have things to say about this. First, telling men that they must marry despite radically changed laws, a complicit church, and a debased culture is what is evil. Why is that evil? Okay. Dalrock kind of gets into it, but there's a more base level evilness to it. And that is, it's not Christian. Nowhere in the Bible are we told that it's okay to tell people to do something after we've completely changed everything about society, culture, law, etc. But they have to keep doing what they were doing. Because what you're really
Not
doing
even
is
biblical marriage. It's not
right,
even.
Yeah. Think about it this way. If I come in and I say, what's really happened is we said, okay, women, it's okay to be absolute sluts, but the men still have to uphold their Christian bargain. No, they don't. There is no Christian case for saying, oh yeah, you have to come in as a man and white knight for her because she said some words in front of an altar. Nope. That is what evil people will do. And he goes into it, right?
He does.
But there's another thing he says. Where was it? This is a long one, and I had lots to say on this one. he started and then stopped. He says, therefore, there's no moral authority in a position to shame men for choosing not to marry. Yes, there is no moral authority in it, because any man who's trying to shame you for choosing not to marry, what they're actually really doing is saying, you're not doing what I want you to do. And they will come up with various explanations as to why it's biblical to get married. Shu knows the tweet. I shot a tweet at let's see. Let me pull it up here so I can read it. I shot a tweet at Dale Partridge. All around good dude, like and agree with a lot of what he says, but he said the first thing that God condemned in scripture was singleness. Really? He said it is not good.
It was not good for man to be alone. Sure.
Yeah. He said it's not good for man that man should be alone. Notice that God did not tell Adam, I am enough for you. No, he said, I will make a helper fit for him. He made a wife.
That's normative. That's normative.
Yeah, this is normative. He goes on to say, this does not mean that singleness is a sin, but it means singleness in general is not God's will for humanity. And that's really where Dale lost the plot. Okay. And then he says, desire marriage, honor marriage. Okay. But there's a bit of a sleight of hand that happens here, and you have to be very careful with this stuff. And I like what Dalrock does here, because he points to this sleight of hand. He says, so the antonym of alone is together. Marriage is not an antonym of alone. Marriage is one possible method for being together with other people, right? But it's not the only way to do it. And that's the sleight of hand. He says, oh, well, marriage is how you be not alone. To which I have to say, bullshit. That, Nick knows this from experience. There's lots of single men out there who are not alone because they have surrounded themselves with groups of godly men. Are they?
And they might live on a farm with family around, and
yeah. Right. They might be alone for a time, but they have groups around them. They are connected to good, godly people. They're connected to churches.
So does Dale Partridge go into the fact that, not good for man to be alone, so he created a helper, someone not of the same authority. There's a hierarchy here.
No, I read his full tweet.
Or does he imply that this is a partner to go through life with in kind of a egalitarian-ish type?
No,
you're not complete.
No, he believes patriarchy, but the problem is we equate marriage today with marriage as what's in the Bible. And
right.
Yes. I know you can be married in the sight of God and try to live the godly way. Okay, I don't fault you for that. Okay. But in the eyes of all the land, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue it can't be the case, because biblical marriage involves a man having power over the wife. Yes, power, force over the wife. And now, with modern marriage, even if you think you're biblically married, by law, the woman has power and the ability to use force over the husband. So it's an inversion. So even if you think you're married, the reality is it's still an inversion of what's in the Bible.
Correct. And I hadn't read Dalrock's article when I wrote this post, but I would definitely add this had I read it before writing this post. Men have a moral obligation not to marry a woman unless he can determine that she is highly likely to keep her vows. That is just chef's kiss. That
Yes.
because and I would have included that in here, as I said in this post, had I read this 24 hours ago. But
He's highly likely at that time, or given her history, given
correct.
her family.
Well, but
she can always change her mind.
well, that's true. But what I want to point out is that in many ways, it's never been easier to determine whether or not she is highly likely to keep her vows. Look at her socials, look at her friends, look, we have access to women's history because they blast that all over the internet. Okay. And what's happening? Men are looking at it and they're going, ew.
Well, guys, you've heard the old adage, a man is only as good as his word,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We kind of all try to strive by that. I mean, it's kind of a personal thing. If I said something, I will do it because my honor,
Mhm.
that's what I'm about. Well, you've also heard the adage, a woman is only as good as her word, haven't you?
I've never heard that one, Steve.
Well, maybe because it never existed.
Well, right. And here's the thing. I didn't know that Dalrock had made this argument. I made this argument a while ago. Because, in fact, he prefaces this by saying, in fact, because of the likely future impact on children. And there's a link to an article that somebody else wrote, not him. Or no, that is one he wrote. Sorry.
No, that's Gert.
Oh, it's no.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong spot.
You're looking through. I clicked on it. It's another Dalrock one.
Okay.
Anyway, go pull this one right here. I will throw the link in the chat to this article that we're reading right now. You can go read this. Please do. But we have to always remember, and I like that he's pointing this out, that our decisions have impacts on people who aren't us. Right? If you have children with a low quality woman who is highly likely to renege on her vows, those women or those children are going to be destroyed. They are not just physically, not just mentally, but spiritually destroyed. You are sacrificing the souls of innocent children. To my mind, this is no different than abortion. I know that's an extreme thing to say, but you are sacrificing the souls of innocent children into the divorce wood chipper so that you can make a line on a fucking chart go up. I have no respect for men who think this. You are just as evil as the abortionists.
Another point here. My first wife said she divorced me because she was putting the children first. My second wife didn't actually say that, but that was what her behavior implied. Bullshit. You put the children first, the first shall be last. No, it was to appease her own guilt and place the blame on me. Children should never, ever be first. The man should not put his children first. The wife should not put her children first. There is no oath given to children. There is an oath given to your spouse before God. Your obligation goes to your spouse first before children. And if you do that, the children will benefit. if you try to put your children first, you're going to fuck them up majorly.
Seen it many times. I know lots of them.
Yeah,
I also know some. I also
got
know some
7.
children where that didn't happen.
Perhaps
They exist,
I have
guys.
7.
Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I have 7. And I have no say in how they're being raised. The church threw me under the bus. The church refused to discipline the ex when she was clearly breaking her oaths, not only to me, but to the church, practicing heresy and pushing it on the children.
And I will guarantee what Nick has told me his story. Oh, she accused Nick of being a misogynist, patriarchist, Christian, oh man, even abusive. And I'm sure she believes in her mind, oh, a man like this should not raise these children. I need to put the children first. Get him out of my life so I can raise these children properly. Now, yeah, is she raising them properly? I don't know. I've heard some stories from Nick, and I'm not going to say, but I really think the evidence would say otherwise. There is the number of times the children are better off without their father is in the low single digit percentages.
It's got to be less than 5%. It's probably less than 2% because the things that a man would have to do to children for it to not be good for them to be around their father are pretty vile things, and most men aren't that. So I do want to throw a little bit of levity in here. Chief had a great little line. Only Jedi level brat whisperers need apply. He was, of course, referring back, when I was talking about how difficult it is to, for men to keep these, women in line. Oh man, I have a lot of strong feelings on this particular topic, particularly because of the child aspect of it. I don't think that the people pushing this are inherently or intentionally being evil. And I want to say that. Okay. I definitely don't think Dale Partridge is evil or trying to push evil. In fact, what I think it is they are just, it's a combination of uninformed and they're not really paying attention to what they're saying because they are afraid of the implications of a marriage strike and a birth strike. It's kind of a children of men doomsday scenario that's mentally playing out in their heads, right? And that fear sort of short circuits any ability to think rationally on the topic. But if you think rationally, you do realize that what Dalrock said here is just absolute truth. In fact, because of the likely future impact on children, men have a moral obligation not to marry a woman unless he can determine that she is highly likely to keep her vows, because the destruction of, and I'm going to continue on, because the destruction of those vows is the destruction of the children. The two are inextricably linked. You cannot have one without the other. And it's it's easy to forget that because you're scared of the implications of this. And I could do a whole stream on, what I think is going on and why it's happening. The TLDR is we have suffered under extreme intersexual degeneracy for, I'll just say 70 years. You could use 80 and I would accept it. And that what we are seeing in birth, marriage, divorce rates is God's chosen consequence of our sins. And if you read the Bible, there's one thing that's absolutely clear. The only way to remove God's consequence is to repent and turn and go the other way, is to repent and remove oneself from and remove the sin. When Israel was cast out by, the Babylonians or the Assyrians or whatnot in the Old Testament, how did they get away from the Assyrians or Babylonians? They repented and they returned. They undid the evil that they had wrought. And that's what I think is happening here.
I don't think this is God's punishment. I don't think it's his wrath. Nick and I had a discussion what was it, Sunday?
I think
Something
so.
That. I said, yeah. Oh, Nick kind of said that. Nah, I don't think so. I think it's God just giving us free will. Okay, you want to do that? Go right ahead.
Well, Steve,
Not gonna turn out
I
good.
didn't say wrath. I said consequences.
I know you said consequences, but God did not impose these consequences. These consequences are just a natural result. Now you could say, and so Nick and I were discussing this.
I would say
Nick says,
withdrawing his grace, withdrawing his restraining presence.
And I cannot
which is a form
refute
of
that. But it's not God getting even with us. He's just saying, you want to do that?
Yeah,
go
he doesn't
ahead.
need to.
It's kind of like what the men are saying to women. Oh, you want to go out and rack up a body count? Okay.
Well,
your thing.
Steve,
I'm not here for you.
I need to rephrase what I said. God doesn't need to. He is just, so justice will be met sometimes on earth, sometimes not. But there will be justice on the last day. So yeah, God ultimately will show forth his righteousness.
Here's how I think about it. The reason I used consequences and not wrath is God built this universe and the systems within it. And the systems within it respond to certain actions. Literally physics, action, reaction. The consequences of extreme sexual degeneracy have always been, throughout reading the Bible, some form of Israel gets destroyed, or the temple gets destroyed. There's a destruction. There is the consequence is directly traceable back to this. Oh, look, we have extreme intersexual degeneracy right now, and oh, look, intersexual relationships are not happening. Well, it's one caused the other. And that's why I said consequence. I think it's more a consequence of the natural order that God set up, where, it's like he doesn't need to do anything except let it happen. Right. But
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. We're in agreement here. But I just wanted to explore this issue just for our audience, as small as it might be, to say, we're not fire and brimstone guys.
No, we're not. But what I would say is, who can make straight what God hath made crooked? God is also not going to stop the consequence from happening until the natural order will not be fixed or returned to order until we do the things necessary to return to that order. Okay? That's the other side of what I'm trying to say. The consequence will disappear when we stop doing the things that cause the consequence. Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Can't we just correct things without feeling the consequence? We don't have to actually suffer before we make things better, do we?
The Bible would okay. My study of the Bible would suggest that at no time in the Bible were the Israelites ever able to avoid suffering the consequences of their no, you have to go through the suffering and the sacrifice. That is a necessary component of the redemption story, if you will. It's just
Well, there is that one instance. It wasn't the Israelites, but Jonah went to Nineveh and they repented. And then things were good for one generation. And then things went to shit after that.
well, because they went back to doing what they had done before. You do bad things, you get bad results. Then you do good things and you get good results. But if you go back to doing bad things, go ahead.
Are you telling me tradcons desperately don't want to reap what they've sown, but they
Yes.
actually want you to sow more wickedness by wifing up these trio fours?
No,
Yes.
what they just want you to pretend that you're not
pretend it'll all
sowing
be okay.
wickedness by throwing life preservers to 304s.
But you actually are, because those whores will have children and they will take those men to divorce. Half of them will. I have stats on that.
And they will raise their children. Okay, they get rid of the father because they divorce. Then they raise weak men. And they raise women, daughters, without discipline. So then the daughters go off and do whatever they want. And then, they kind of learn their lesson later on. And then, you know what? If you want to get out of jail card, just come to Jesus and go to church. And after you've had your fun, you can find a good man, too, just like your mom did, and divorce him 7 years later.
I have
this
this
laugh. It's actually very effed up and terrible.
It's evil.
Yeah.
So I have the stats here. I can put them on screen if you guys would like. This is research we did a while ago, but it's still relevant. I need to make it bigger. There we go.
Yeah,
Is that
it.
so? So remember how earlier I was talking about the difference between ever divorced and currently divorced? These are the stats for ever divorced. Okay. Protestant overall, 46% roughly. Evangelical. And yeah, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow there. Catholic, 34%. Now, this is where things get interesting. The Orthodox, there is no data on this. I have scoured the internet high and low. The Orthodox do not report divorces. Okay. However, there is anecdotal data.
Largely Orthodox countries, it's different than it is here.
Right.
Okay. What, in general terms, the U.S. is 50% nominally Protestant, right?
Roughly, yeah. Nominally.
And 35% nominally Catholic. Maybe 40. Yeah, probably 35. Nominally. About 2% Jewish. About Orthodox Christian.
It's not very big. I don't know what the numbers are.
I'd give it like somewhere between 2 and 4%.
Yeah, that's about right.
Muslim's
bigger.
Probably 8-10%.
Yeah.
8%. I'm just wild ass guessing here. And then atheist and other, whatever makes up the list. So my point is, Orthodox Christian, they are such a small percentage of the population that we don't have good data on them. We just don't. And it's kind of, who cares?
Their lower divorce rate has no material impact on the overall divorce rate. That's probably the best way to state it. They're just too
Right.
small to make a difference. The only reason it's in here is because if I were to show you the actual conversation chain, I had to prod Grok like 3 different times to get me this estimate because the data is just terrible on it. And who knows? It could be making this up. I don't know. Right. Anyway, that's realistically, these are going to be the bulk of what is in the US.
Well, you can include Jewish in there. Jewish is not that much different. But it's remarkable. The Jewish is actually lower than the Christian. The Jewish divorce rate is lower than the Christian divorce rate.
Yeah, it is. Says nothing good about us Christians, that's for sure. But anyway, I wanted to pull this up because I want people to understand very specifically what Dalrock was saying about you have a moral obligation not to marry a woman unless you can determine that she is highly likely to keep her vows. Well, if you're Protestant, you're fucked. Okay. If you're Catholic, you're just a little less fucked. Because half of all Protestant women will divorce at some point, which means you are taking a 50-50 shot with the woman that you're looking at. Well, statistically speaking, that means that in order to get your chances of getting divorced down below 1%, you need 200 Protestant women roughly to go to, I think that's what it works out to. I don't remember the exact math off the top of my head, but it's you need more than 100 women. We'll go with that.
Well, gambling not with your life, just with your life, but also the lives of your children.
Correct.
Yeah, and if you think Catholic women are a better choice, yes, possibly your risk of divorce is lower. But if you divorce, the risk of a knockdown, drag out, being accused of horrendous things is higher because Catholic women have a bigger incentive and need to displace all blame onto the husband. Because remember, divorce is not really accepted in the Catholic Church unless he's just such a horrendous man. So they're going to turn you into a horrendous man. And then, yeah, it's not fun.
Well, this goes back to. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, Nick.
I do want to give I'm going to give some biblical and statistical wisdom. I know we don't have the stats in front of us, but we did it a few weeks ago on one of Steve's streams. Okay, so in the Bible, it talks about basically, in most cases, normative cases, you should expect to marry a virgin. And the consequences of somebody being a harlot or non-virgin, they tend to be stones were cast. And I would say for good reason. A marriage bed undefiled is greatly to be honored. In the book of Hebrews. Also, the lowest divorce rate, which kind of confirms, maybe God was right, was if a man married a virgin.
Okay, Nick.
But good luck finding one these days.
I was just going to say, what's the percentage of virgins out there? Well, if
that aren't whales,
the whales and the psychopaths.
Right.
If you go by Cappy's Book of Numbers, it's about 4%.
Okay. So the numbers are not in your favor, gentlemen. Christian guys that want to marry a godly wife and do the right thing. Well, and Dalrock kind of pointed that out in the article as well. Like, just the numbers aren't there. And do you want to risk wifing up somebody that's more liable to kick you to the curb and destroy perhaps the wealth you've accumulated, destroy your reputation, perhaps destroy your career, and ultimately your progeny? Well,
Oh, not to really destroy men's hope. But have you ever seen a 30-year-old virginal woman?
mm,
Mm,
yes,
mm.
but
Yeah,
we have no interest in that.
no, thank you.
And they had no interest in marriage.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're either attractive but asexual, or they're very pious and don't have
Jesus is
time.
her boyfriend.
Yes, okay, so there's that type. Or oh no, no, no,
Massive psych
I
issues.
cannot be attracted to that. So it's
And
just
well,
yeah, I mean, beyond a certain age, I mean, the truth is, if you find a woman who's a virgin in her maybe up till 22, great. Up to 25, possible. But the percentage keeps declining, and your chances of finding a good woman who's a virgin as she gets past up, her early 20s is fleetingly small. And if you're waiting for a woman who's in her mid 20s to be a virgin and find your woman, you're not working with the probable numbers. You're working against the laws of probability and you're working against statistics.
but Steve, we got one more.
Let's do it. This is a
What?
good one.
I gotta find it here. Open my windows back up. All right. We'll share this tab instead. All right. This is a fun one. November 18th, 2011. We are trapped on Slut Island, and traditional conservatives are our Gilligan. I know for many of you, this really isn't a bad place. If you are a feminist or a player, this is pretty close to paradise. But if you are like me, you very much want to leave. Everyone always asks, why don't we just build a boat and sail away from here? We could make it to the land of sanity. But it isn't that simple, I'm afraid. Every time it looks like they're about to make it home, one of the Gilligans manages to screw it up. Keep in mind that Gilligans aren't malicious by nature. They also want to leave the island, but unfortunately, they're rather simple and easily distracted. It wouldn't be such a problem if there weren't so many of them. Take, for example, the issue of out of wedlock births. Gilligans are especially susceptible to what I call the it takes two fallacy. In the proper context, it isn't a fallacy at all. If an individual woman has a child out of wedlock, it isn't a fact that there is somewhere a man who is also responsible for the problem. So far, no problem. But the Gilligans want to use this to form social policy. They mistakenly apply at the macro level what is only true at the micro level. They assume this means if you have 100 baby mamas, that there must also be an equal number of baby daddies. They took this logical error and combined it with their natural sympathy for sluts and decided to create a social order where only men are punished for out of wedlock births. What they didn't understand is that it only takes a small number of irresponsible men to sire all the bastards the baby mamas could ever want. No matter how draconian our child support laws become, there will always be a small number of irresponsible men who are willing to play their part. We've tried the Gilligan way for over 50 years now, and even though it has brought us from single-digit illegitimacy rates to 40% and climbing, no one can talk any sense into them. Here's the number of births, birth rate, percentage of births to unmarried women, 1940 2007. And by the way, the numbers are actually worse today than they were of the time of this data. Number of births, birth rate, number of births, okay, percent. All right. Wow. Okay. You explain it to them slowly and carefully, and they nod at all the right moments, indicating they understand. Then a feminist comes by and whispers, double standard, or it takes two, in their ear, and the Gilligan instantly forgets everything you just explained to him. The same thing applies to slut shaming. Gilligans love their rule of it takes two, and they apply it there as well. Again, at the micro level, if we're considering the issue of individual sin, this would make sense. But Gilligans live in fear of the dreaded double standard. It keeps them awake at night with visions of unhappy sluts crying out to them, why do we have to shame sluts? They plead, let's shame the players instead. They are the really bad ones anyway. We know from the history of civilization that slut shaming is what works. But the Gilligans are haunted by the faces of the unhappy sluts, which fill their dreams. They are desperate for another solution, any solution, so long as it doesn't mean unhappy sluts. The tried and true approach, slut shaming. Assume we're starting off with 100 sluts and 30 alphas/players. The sluts are happily riding on the alpha carousel. Now we introduce slut shaming. It isn't fully effective, of course, but it manages to convince 15 of the would-be sluts not to be sluts after all. This means an additional 15 women are again potentially suitable for marriage. This directly translates into fewer fatherless children. This also makes the next round of slut shaming easier. Instead of having 99 peers eagerly cheering her on her ride, each slut now has 15 happily married women shaming her and only 84 other sluts encouraging her. After the next round, this becomes 30 happily married women shaming the sluts and only 69 other sluts cheering them on, and so on. This process continues until all but the most die-hard sluts are off the carousel. You'll never discourage them all, but you can do a world better than we are doing today. The Gilligan approach. Shame players. Start with the same base assumption of 100 sluts and 30 players. Now apply shame to the players. Unfortunately, shame is less effective on players than it is on sluts. So instead of discouraging 15% of them, 4.5 in the first round, it only discourages 3 of them. No problem, says Gilligan. At least there are now 3 fewer sluts now that the 3 of the evil alphas have been shamed away. and all without creating any unhappy sluts. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The remaining 27 players are more than happy to service the extra sluts. They are quite maddeningly, actually, delighted with the new situation. Even worse, the next round of player shaming is even less effective than the first. This time, only 2 players are discouraged, and the other 3 realizes that his player peers are picking up the slack anyway and reopens for business. This means in net there are still 26 players, more than enough to handle all the sluts you can throw at them. But it gets worse yet. Now that the ratio of sluts to players is even less in the sluts' favor, the sluts actually get sluttier. They now have to compete even harder for each player's attention. Now we have 100 even sluttier sluts. But what if we could shame all of the players? The Gilligan asks. That way we could still achieve our objective, and I wouldn't have to be haunted by unhappy sluts. In theory, of course, the Gilligan is right. If you could shame all the players into hanging up their smirk, you would then be able to stamp out sluthood forever. However, the Gilligan is once again barking up the wrong tree. Shame only works on those who are susceptible to it. Unfortunately, players tend to possess the dark triad personality traits. It is actually a large part of what makes them attractive to the sluts in the first place. Our little buddy won't hear of it though, and presses on with his plan to shame a group of narcissistic psychopaths to forgo their own pleasure for the good of society. The hybrid Gilligan approach: shame them both equally. While the Gilligan would prefer not to have to shame sluts at all, his mortal terror of the doubled standard compels him to hold out for player shaming, even when agreeing to shame sluts, at least in theory. The problem is shaming players has the side effect of reducing the impact of slut shaming. This is rationalization hamster steroids. The moment concern for the double standard is introduced into the mix, even a little bit, sluts, their moms, and white knights will all rationalize that it wasn't really the slut's fault. We've seen this with Jennifer Moses, the mother who wrote the Wall Street Journal article on the damage promiscuity is doing to young girls. Even after acknowledging the great harm this is causing young women, she wrote, I wouldn't want us to return to the age of the corset, or even of the double standard, because a double standard that lets the promiscuous male off the hook while condemning his female counterpart is both stupid and destructive. If you're the campus mattress, chances are that you need therapy more than you need condemnation. Better your daughter need therapy than commit the dreaded sin of the doubled standard. Anything but that. We see the same rationalization in pop music as well. I could go on, but you see, it simply doesn't matter. I could show charts and stats and tell them about the millions of innocent children, and even the sluts themselves, who are harmed by not shaming sluts. I could have every Gilligan on the island fully convinced. But after all of that, it would only take one slut or feminist to walk by and whisper, double standard, and it would all wash away. Welcome to my hell. Thus ends Dalrock on. We are trapped on Slut Island, and the traditional conservatives are our Gilligan.
You know, welcome to all of our hells. This is my hell, your hell. All of us now live in this hell. What I like about this article is that, yes, it's nerdy, mathy, and I know I'm the data guy, but the logic is absolutely ironclad. We know We know all of this. Okay. Shaming players doesn't work. Why? Because players are narcissistic psychopaths who don't care about the good of society. So they don't care if you shame them. So what good does it do? Okay. You can't shame them. You can't. I'm not saying like you can throw shame language at them. They'll just look at you and they'll go, cool story, brah. And they'll go back to banging out sluts. Okay. And again, the math is even right. If you do manage to reduce the number of players, you only increase the sluttiness. And look at what we've seen in the 15 years since Dalrock's written this. We have tried shaming them. We have shamed the players. There are fewer players now. I've got players in my Twitter feed who they are rejoicing at slut shaming. Player shaming. They love this. Why? Because they get more sluts and they know it and they will tell it to you. They don't care, right? This is good for them. And the sluts are still out here being slutty because you haven't done anything about the sluts. Okay. So these men,
but
go ahead.
Plutarch, it's gonna work because the modern Christians who are shaming the players are just like the modern communists. I swear it's gonna work. We just haven't done it right yet.
Oh, the no true Scotsman fallacy. It's effectively what that is. Well, you just didn't do it right.
Right. We just haven't done it good enough yet.
To which I have to say, communism has failed everywhere it's been tried because it explicitly ignores human psychology. And in order for this particular thing to work, you also have to ignore human psychology. Because I can tell you right now, the players don't care. They just don't care. Like you think you have some cool new shame attack. Yeah, they don't care. They can't hear you over the sound of themselves beating cheeks. Okay, they don't care. I hate to get crass with my language, but I see them on my Twitter feed. They rejoice. The PUAs love the trad cons or the Gilligans. These guys love them because they know that the trad cons are the ones out here making more sluts for them.
and where are the TradCon, or where are the future TradCon women to be found?
In the pool of sluts. Okay. You cannot fix this by shaming the players. All you can do is starve the players of their supply of sluts. That's it. That is the only option. That is the only thing that works with human psychology. It's the only thing that works with the math.
Yes, okay. I want to make sure that people don't get the wrong impression here. We just recently did a stream, it was on Lana's channel, on propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're not going to propagandize the sluts into not being sluts.
Correct.
Propaganda in no shape or form is the answer. The only answer is force. In some form. Doesn't necessarily have to be physical force.
Well, Steve, here's an idea.
It has to be force.
Here's an idea. So slut shaming, right? What really is shaming? Shaming is looking at somebody and saying, you are disgusting. You are beneath me. You are not worth my time and energy and paying attention to. Which, of course, to women is just horrifying, right?
Sure.
And any guy who's been around
make
women.
many friends.
Well, that's true. But Nick, this is an old red pill axiom. It's called negging. right? If you neg a woman, it's one way to make her, want to fuck you, right? But okay, shaming is kind of the same thing, except with shaming, we don't let them, back into polite society. And that's, I think, Steve, that's what you're really getting at.
Well,
Is
there's the other kind of force. Oh, you're pregnant. Oh, baby out of wedlock. Sorry, you're on your own. The force of consequences.
Yep.
Oh, yes. You're on the outskirts of society. Yeah. There's no good future for your child. Uh-huh.
or
Now you're an example. We are forcing you to bear the consequences.
Another one could be STDs.
Yeah, okay. Force does not have to be consequences, does not have to be mean. It can just let people stew in their own circumstances.
Well, I think what you're trying to say is force doesn't have to be physical. Force can just be allowing somebody to suffer the consequences. But
Exactly.
the Gilligans, they can't be haunted by unhappy sluts. They can't allow that to happen.
Oh my God. Really? You know what? Those sluts are gonna cry.
Yes. Women's tears.
You know what? Women's tears, they really hit me. I don't want to see a woman cry. Can't I do something to fix it for her
No.
so she doesn't have to cry?
No. Well, okay, yes, you can. The consequence of that is the destruction of society and intersexual relationships and children. It's only all the worst evils that you can possibly imagine. That's all it is. Just the worst evils of humanity for your efforts. And the really sad part is that the Gilligans are entirely unaware of what they're doing. They don't. It's a time preference problem, and those of you who follow our channel will know what I mean. And those of you who don't, I'll let you look that one up. We're 2.5 hours into this, and I don't need to extend it by explaining that one. Just go look it up. So I like this one because it really puts a spotlight on who the actual problem is. And there was a guy earlier on in the stream. He was asking, well, he let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. He was asking, okay, who do you think is funding these people who are going after the red pill? And he had his list of things that he wanted to, and I'm not going to say it publicly for, if you go read the comments, you'll understand. And I said, well, we can't speak conclusively to that, but we suspect it's not the government, but TradCon and church orgs that are funding it. And this is what I'm getting at. The TradCons and church orgs are the ones that are they're doing this, and they're not doing it maliciously. They're doing it because they're not smart enough to realize what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. They're Gilligans. Gilligan wasn't a bad person, just not very bright. And he was easily swayed. And I think easily swayed, I think is really what the problem here is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Nick, you gonna bring this into a close?
All right. Now you can bring it into a close. Guys, we talked about a lot about early Dalrock. Yeah, I was just glancing through first year and a half of Dalrock's articles. I was like, oh man, he's really nailed some of the points that we've been talking about. And didn't know he talked about them, or to this extent. I haven't read all of Dalrock. I've read some of him. There's a lot of his work that needs to be thumbed through, read. You can find it on this theredarchive.com. A very brilliant man. I'm sad he's no longer in the space. I hope he returns. He is
The
desperately needed in the state of the red pill and bringing back to popularity the married red pill or the Christian red pill. And that's kind of who we are as the Resurgence of Sanity. We're three Christian men that happen to be red pill. And the red pill is looking at the world not as you want it to be or wish it to be or how society taught you, but looking at the world as it really is, seeing the world for what it is, and then making decisions based on that reality. And a lot of these topics that we talked about are still pressing even today. These have not gone away. Every article we brought up is still circulating the web. The same attacks on the red pill, the same attacks in 2010 and 2011. They're just recycled. Don't be duped. And also read your Bibles. You guys have anything else you want to say?
Yes. Oh, man, let's get together collectively and do a marriage strike. We'll teach those women. We'll get them to reform themselves, and then we can marry them and we can live happily ever after. Yeah. Uh-huh. You're not going to get men to collectively work to do that. TradCon message. Men, collectively, we need to get together and find a woman to marry and have a lot of kids so we can produce godly offspring. And we can outproduce all the heathens and we can take this country back. And let's, yay, collectively, let's work together and get this done. Not going to happen. Men, just figure it out for yourself and do what's best for yourself, which may involve marriage, may not involve marriage. But whatever you do, make sure you know the risks. And forget about this acting collectively. You know what? Just serve God. Have your eyes on God, not your eyes on women, not your eyes on the other men around you telling you what to do. Just keep your eyes on God.
the world is a greatly diminished place for Dalrock no longer being with us. I got to be honest, guys. This has been a fascinating review of the early Red Pill history that I was unfortunately not a part of. The other thing is, there really is nothing new under the sun. Oh, there's new players. You know, there's new people running these attacks now. It's not the same people as it was 15 years ago. But I find it fascinating that the people attacking the Red Pill have nothing new to offer. Oh, they might dress it up in new language and clever, more clever, attacks, but the core of their argument is no different. And the core of their logic fails in the same way for the same reasons. Because the truth is their attacks are odds. And when you try to attract an is with an ought, you lose 100% of the time. You can't win. These are truths. this last article we read where he's running through the math, that's a truth. Women are like that. Sorry, guys. I hate to burst your bubble, but women are like that. You can either choose to work with it, and Steve, you were talking about there's no collective action. That's true, but you as a man personally can choose to accept the truth and work with it, and you might have a successful relationship for that effort. I chose to accept the truth into of the stuff into my life, and so far things are going pretty good in my relationship. Okay? Or you can delude yourself into thinking that you can ought your way out of the consequences of these truths. You can't. It's not possible in this universe. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say. Next week. Next week is going to be weird. Yet again, we don't know if we're going to be doing a debate or not. We have an agreement in principle with our debate partner, debate opponent, however you choose to classify him. It's Glenn Lawrence. However, we have not heard back on a firm time and date. I have thrown something out there, but
is this a memorandum of understanding?
Well, it's public on Twitter. I can throw the chat. I can throw the message history.
No need.
Those memorandums of understanding, they always work, don't they?
No, they don't. No, they get torn up all the time. So in theory, next Wednesday, we will be over on Glenn's channel doing a debate on, is the red pill selling half truths? If that does not happen, I have a topic ready to go. It's one that I've talked about before. You may have heard me say frame uber alles. So that's probably even going to be the title of the stream next week. But if we're not over on Glenn's channel doing a debate, we will be on our channel talking more about frame. So that is next week. We don't know. We will keep pursuing this debate. We think that this is an important debate to have. It is a corollary of the debate of what you have heard from us over the past few weeks. This is a topic that we consider core to surviving the world we live in today. So we will keep pursuing this as long as we can.
We'll have to either co-stream it here or put up a short notice directing you where to go to listen.
Yeah, I don't know. Glenn would have to turn on the ability to allow us to co-stream, and that is not something I have any control over. So,
yeah. So we'll just have to do something to let you know. We'll do our best effort. It's not a promise. Okay.
Yes. We will do our best effort to let you know what happens. If you see our normal stream notification come in at the normal time with our thumbnail, you'll know that we were not able to make it. But we are pursuing this, and I mean, at some point, if he chooses not to, we'll just have to say, hey, look, he chose not to. But this is a topic that matters to us because it's core to our mission. So that's next week. Hope you guys, will join us either way. And this tonight was another great episode. This is a very shareable episode. I am sure Mrs. Secretary is going to be clipping this one to pieces because there's so many good things in here. But please, there are men out there who need to hear what Dalrock had to say. So please share this with them.
Right, because on this channel, we have 150% of the truth. Because Nick is telling half truth, Plutarch is telling half truth, I'm selling half truth. 50% times 3 is 150%. So you're going to get more truth here than anywhere else.
That's
Steve.
addition, not multiplication. Like you did that on purpose, I'm sure.
So other than that, if you guys like what you heard, you can leave a like. If you want to hear more, you can subscribe. We do appreciate that. And yeah, we will see you next week, one way or another. Later.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!